Alright, so y'all go ahead and do the factoring and the math knowledge question today. Pause the video, and then once everyone is finished, you can unpause the video and I'll go over the correct answers. So you're going to want to do a remove, replace, reduce here. Remove the 4 and make it x squared plus 4x minus 60. And then don't forget to replace your 4 whenever you go to factor. And you're going to want to use a positive 10. And then you'll have a 4x minus 6. Both of these will reduce. We'll have 2x plus 5. And then we'll have 2x minus 3. And so this would be your answer for the factoring question. For the math knowledge question, we have 16 members in our drama club. We have 3 officers. So that means that we have 13 people that are not officers. And we want to know what's the probability that one person out of those 13 would be chosen. And so the probability is 1 out of 13. Okay, so we are looking at lesson 82 today. We are going to be looking at application of trig. So this is going to be using your sine, cosine, and tangent. You should by now have those memorized, but if you don't, you definitely need to memorize them because they are not going away. So hopefully you'll understand the applications of trig in this example. Alright, so we're going to start with the inverse sine. It's the measure of an angle whenever you know the sine ratio. So if you look at our triangle, the sine inverse looks like that, inverse sine. We say sine inverse. And so if you are looking at your calculator, near where you would press the sine button, you should see the sine inverse button. It may be on the same button, you just have to hit the second and then the sine button to get this, but that's called the inverse sine. Okay, and so we know the sine of angle theta is A over C because it's opposite over adjacent. And so then to solve for our angle, if we know what our A and C are, let's say that that's, well, we'll just use A and C, but they're 2 numbers. You're going to say theta equals sine inverse of whatever A over C is. And so you take this and you move it over here. You're not dividing by sine. Those are 2 different things. Okay, you're making it sine inverse. So that's whenever you know the sine ratio. The inverse cosine is the measure of an angle when you know the cosine ratio. So on this one, we could say the cosine of theta is adjacent over hypotenuse, so B over C. And so then, to solve for theta, we would use the cosine inverse of B over C. Okay? And then the tangent inverse is the measure of an angle where the tangent is known. And so I'm going to write that one again, just like we did on the other 2. The tangent of theta is going to be A over B. And so to find theta, we would do tangent inverse of A over B. And you do have to know A and B in order to do that. Okay? So let's look at this one. We want to find theta to the nearest degree. So we're using theta, and they give us the opposite and the hypotenuse. So we're going to use sine. And so we're going to find theta by rewriting our equation as sine inverse of 8 over 10. And so if you plug that into your calculator and it says to the nearest degree, you should get theta equals 53. If you did not get that, first I want you to check and make sure that your calculator, if you're using a graphing calculator, that it is in degrees and not radians. And then if you still did not get that, y'all pause the video and check with your neighbors to see how you need to plug it into the calculator. You need to do more than likely the second button, the top left button on your calculator, and then sine. And then you're going to have this pop up in the calculator, and then you'll have an open parentheses as well. And then you're going to need to do 8 divided by 10, and close your parentheses. Don't do a fraction bar. Just do the divide by. Don't try and do that little fraction symbol, okay? Moving on to the next example, we want to find theta to the nearest degree. We are given the cosine ratio because we have adjacent over hypotenuse. So we're going to use cosine of theta equals 7 over 17. And so theta is going to be the cosine inverse of 7 over 17. And so it says to round to the nearest degree. And if you do that, you should get 66. Okay, so y'all can pause the video if you need to. Make sure everybody can get that one, and then we'll go to the next example. So on this one, we want to find theta 1 and theta 2 to the nearest degree. So we'll start by finding theta 1. They give us only the adjacent and the hypotenuse, the adjacent and the opposite, no hypotenuse. So that means we're going to use tangent. So tangent of theta 1. The opposite is 23 and the adjacent is 17. So we're going to rewrite it as tangent inverse of 23 over 17. If you plug that into your calculator, you should get 54 to the nearest degree. And so that would be theta 1. Now we're going to find theta 2. And so again, we're going to use tangent because we don't have the hypotenuse. So on tangent 2, the opposite is 17 and the adjacent is 23. And so theta 2 is going to be tangent inverse of 17 over 23. And so theta 2, if you plug that in, is going to be 36 degrees. Now, if you'll notice, we used tangent inverse on both of these. And we used the same numbers, we just had 23 over 17 and then 17 over 23. And we got two different numbers. So that's why it does make a difference which one you choose to be your opposite and your adjacent. You have to make sure that you're looking at the angle that you're working with. Okay, so let's look at some practice problems. Oh, no, we've got one more example. I'm sorry. We've got a wheelchair ramp that's in the shape of a right triangle. So let's draw a right triangle. And so there's our right angle. The ramp hits the floor 20 feet from the base of the stairs. So this length is 20. And the stairs are 3 feet high. So this is 3. And it asks for the measurements of the angle between the ramp and the floor. So that's going to be here. I'll label as X. And it also asks the angle where the ramp meets the stair, which is that angle, which is Y. Okay, so on these we don't have the hypotenuse, so we're going to have to use tangent. So tangent of X is going to be 3 over 20. And so X, if you do tangent inverse of 3 over 20, your X value, rounded to the nearest whole number, is going to be 9 degrees. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing for Y. The tangent of Y is 20 over 3, and so Y is tangent inverse of 20 over 3. And so our Y, if you plug that into your calculator, you should get 81 degrees. If you'll notice, 9 plus 81 adds up to 90 degrees. Should these two angles add up to 90 degrees? Well, they should, because they are complementary. So that's one way you can kind of check to see if your answers are possible. If they add up to 90, they should, because they are going to be complementary. All right, so now we're going to look at the practice problems. So see if you can do A, B, and C by yourself, and then you'll unpause the video and I'll go over the answers. So for theta 1, we've got opposite and hypotenuse. So we're going to do the sine of theta 1 equals 18 over 25. And so theta 1 is sine inverse of 18 over 25. And if you plug that in to your calculator, you should get 46 degrees. Okay? For theta 2, we have adjacent over hypotenuse. We're still using 18 and 25, but instead of doing sine, we're going to have to do cosine. So we're going to do cosine inverse of 18 over 25 for theta 2. And so if you plug that in, you're going to get 44 degrees. And so that's how you would do those two. Looking at the next one, it tells us the opposite side is 72 and the adjacent side is 90. That means we'll use tangent. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. So if you rewrite that, tangent is going to be tangent inverse of 72 over 90. And if you plug that in, round it to the nearest whole number, you're going to get 39 degrees. Okay, looking at one more practice problem. We've got a right triangle over here. I want us to find theta. So y'all try that, and then unpause the video. So we're going to use the cosine of theta, and it's going to be adjacent over hypotenuse, which I'm not going to put 2. This is in inches, this is in feet. 2 feet is the same thing as 24 inches. So I'm going to convert it so that they're in the same units. Okay, and so then if you rewrite it, 18 over 24, and you plug that into your calculator, you should get 41 degrees. Okay, so hopefully those make sense to you. Looking at the challenge question, they want you to find a value of x that satisfies the equation. Y'all can pause the video and try and figure that out, and then I will give you a possible answer. Okay, square root of 2 over 2 will work if you plug that in. You can check it with your calculator if you want. That's the one that the book gives. It says it's a possible answer. I believe that 0 and 1 may also work. I don't have a calculator that has trig functions handy to check and make sure, but I think those two may also work. You can easily plug them in and check and see. Besides that, I don't think that there are any others that will work though. Okay. Alrighty, so hopefully that helped you a little bit with your trig application. Your homework is 1 through 30, so make sure you do that tonight so that we can go over any questions you have tomorrow.